Hey guys, I am Pixel Dan, and this is a review of the Masters of the Universe Origins Hordak, ruthless leader of the evil horde. That is right, my friends. One of the big three, the final of the big three, in fact, is in the Masters of the Universe Origins line. We've got the evil Hordak, leader of the evil horde. And I say big three, I mean He-Man, Skeletor, Hordak, right? I guess maybe King Hiss is also one of the big baddies, but he's not here yet. Hordak is. Let's dive right in and take a look at him. So, we've got our classic Masters of the Universe card back like we've seen for all of the Origins figures, but you'll notice one of the things they're doing for Hordak is they're putting that evil horde sticker right there on the blister bubble, which is exactly what they did in the vintage toy line, so that's a really nice nod to that, and I assume that any horde members we get from here on out will probably also have that sticker, so really, really nice touch. As we flip this around to the backside, once again at the top of the packaging, we are treated to some absolutely gorgeous artwork of Hordak, Mantenna, Modulok, Leech, Grizzlor, and some Horde Troopers apparently going through a portal or looking through a portal from Despondos, from Etheria. You can see kind of like the classic toy-style Fright Zone in the background behind them. I love it. And they're looking into a portal to see Castle Grayskull over in Eternia. Beautiful artwork. I absolutely love the artwork on this toy line. And then down below that, we've got a cross-sell showing the other figures in this particular wave, as well as some action feature callouts, showing you how the crossbow and the articulation works. So, let's go ahead and get Hordak pulled outside of the packaging, and we'll get a closer look at him. Alright, so before we get to the figure, it is worth noting that Hordak comes packaged with the same mini-comic from the other figures in the wave, like Triclops and Ninjor and Stratos, but Hordak is, of course, featured as the prominent villain in that little mini-comic, and he also comes with this cool little insert there, letting you know that he does have swappable parts, just like all of the figures in the Origins lineup. Alright, so let's take a closer look at Hordak. As you can see, the figure stands actually just over 6 inches tall, but that's because he's got this extra, collar and the larger head that comes up a little bit higher than the other figures, which actually fits right in with the vintage figure because it did the same thing. So yes, this figure of Hordak is based on the vintage action figure, and there's always that thing where some people prefer gray Hordak because that's how he appeared in the vintage Masters of the Universe, and some people prefer blue Hordak because that's how he appeared in Filmation. I have a strong feeling we will get a blue version of this down the road because we know how Mattel likes to release paint variations. But for the time being, we're starting off with gray Hordak, which comes from the vintage Horde action figure. And first looks on this guy, I mean, he looks great. He does a good job of mimicking the look of the vintage action figure. Let's talk about some of the details here. So first of all, you'll notice that just like the vintage toy, they went back to making the collar the same sculpt as the head. It is not separated. In the Classics line, they separated that out and they made the collar a separate piece and the head a separate piece, but we're back to making this look just like the vintage action figure, so it is all one solid thing. I get it. That's the aesthetics of this line. They're going for the vintage aesthetics, so I expected nothing less. The body armor is that kind of softer, more pliable plastic, but it does detach on the sides, just like the vintage figure. We've got the sculpted details from the sides, but they didn't paint the red in there. I was kind of hoping we'd get the red ribs on there, which was my favorite version of vintage Hordak, but it is left all black. He does have a cape poking off the back, and this is really cool because the vintage one was like a short vinyl cape. This time he's got a much longer cape, and it's made of the same plastic. You can see it's not detachable. It's the same softer, pliable plastic as the armor itself. I like this. I think it's a really nice look. I actually like that he's got a longer cape. It looks better on Hordak. He also has a Horde armband on the left, which is a separate piece. I like that. So it's something that they slid onto the arm of the figure there instead of making it part of the sculpt, which makes sense because then they could just reuse some of the basic arms that they've already got. But I do like that the Horde armband is included. I love the nice shiny silver paint that's used on the belt. And then you can see he does have his iconic Horde boots there. So those are all brand new sculpted pieces, which is very, very nice. So the figure does look really good, but now we've got to talk about the paint, because I do have some problems with the paint on mine. I want to start with the Horde emblem on his armor. Unfortunately, that red is very sloppily painted. You'll see that it's super sloppy over here on the right bat wing, but also there's a lot of black still shining through. So unfortunately, it is just not as clean as I'd like. But even worse than that, look at the eyes on my Hordak. Oh man, I was so bummed out when I noticed this. And I didn't start noticing it until I started taking pictures. Unfortunately, I've got the derpy eyes going on there. The right eye is painted very badly, so we got the wonkiness going on, and man, that really sucks, because that kind of ruins the look, because now that's all I can see is that I've got messed up eyes on my Hordak. Now, that doesn't mean they're all going to be like this. That means I just got bad luck on my particular Hordak. So if you're able to actually see these in stores and in person, make sure you're looking closely. I'm hoping that that's not like a widespread issue, but I don't know yet. I don't know. It is a bummer for mine. I really hate that. Okay. Let's talk about articulation. So it does function pretty much the same. Obviously, with that added collar there, it gets in the way a little bit, but you can still turn the head side to side. You can roll it around. It is still removable as well. It's the same kind of ball joint we've seen on all the other figures. The arms work the same. You got the same single joint at the elbow as well as the swivel. You got the same single swivel at the wrist as well as the hinge joint there. You've got the torso, which can also be detached. You got the ball-like joints at the thighs, so they can go forwards, backwards. You can swivel at the knees. You can bend at the knees. You can swivel at the boots. And then the ankles can move forwards and backwards. And they can kind of rock side to side. They're not as good as the other figures. That's probably because of the unique sculpt of his feet. But otherwise, their articulation functions good. It seems real solid. And you've got all of those interchangeable parts if that's something that you want to do. So Hordak has two accessories. First of all, he's got the Horde crossbow, which they totally modeled right after the vintage. It's a very bright white this time. The vintage one, I don't know if it's just fading from over time, but it's white, but it's almost more like a bone color white. This one is very, very white. But you can see it looks a lot like the vintage. It even functions like the vintage, where if you press down on it, it kind of just springs outwards a little bit. I mean, it's not very much. The vintage ones were the same, though. I mean, they're not the best. But, you know, it actually just clips right on his wrist and actually does clip on there pretty tightly. So you've got that to display with him. And then he does come with his bat shield or his minion, however you want to look at it. The vintage toy did call it a bat shield, but a lot of people have kind of called this his little bat minion or even referred to it as imp. In the classics line, they sculpted it as a full-on bat sitting on his arm, so it could be whatever you want, but it looks much more like the vintage one. It even functions the same, with the same little strap that you can take off, or you can just make it loose enough that it fits right over his hand, and that way it just kind of clips right there onto his wrist. So now you've got his little bat shield or minion there right on his wrist. So that looks really cool, and it does look a lot like the vintage toy. So with that said, it's comparison time. Let's go ahead and stand this new Hordak alongside the vintage action figure, where you can really see the similarities between the designs of the two figures. And then I'm going to stand him alongside the Masters of the Universe Classics version. Now, they did do a lot of changes with that one. Like I mentioned in this video, they separated the head from the collar, which I actually do like quite a bit. They made the bat a little bat minion that sits on his arm, but it's really interesting looking at these two side by side. So there you go, my friends. There is my look at the Masters of the Universe Origins Hordak. Now, I'm very excited to get Hordak already. We've got the start of the Evil Horde. We've got this kind of completes our big three with He-Man and Skeletor and Hordak. We already have She-Ra, so we can pair him up against She-Ra. And man, this guy was so close to being so perfect. If it weren't for the bad paint, specifically with the eyes, I would really, really, really love this one, because I like a lot of the changes with the longer cape. I think he feels really good and he looks really good. He feels like a proper update of the vintage look, but that paint, man, oh, the paint in the eyes is such a letdown. I'm going to have to find another one that is hopefully painted better than this. I do need to give a shout out to my buddy Toy Bro, who picked this up for me from his local Target. Make sure you go check out his channel if you haven't already. Otherwise, you should be able to hopefully find this guy at Target stores, which is where he's showing up now, or you can pre-order him online from places like Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth, which I will link to in the video description. Thank you guys so very much for watching, and until next time.
The Toys of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe is available for pre-order now. This official guidebook is published by Dark Horse Books and features over 750 pages of photos and information on your favorite He-Man and She-Ra action figures. And don't miss out on the exclusive bundle pack available for pre-order now from PowerCon. This bundle includes the official guide as well as an exclusive character guide supplement that you won't be able to buy anywhere else. Don't miss out. You have the power.